Hello, I'm going to talk through my student outcomes for lesson 3. This video was of a Spanish 1 classroom. In the middle of the day, we were doing a review lesson on Gustar and introducing new vocabulary. I started the lesson with our ELs, which ones we were working on and why we were working on those and how those were going to be done in those first minute of class or so. We did some review conversation. It's one of those things you have to do it constantly to keep it fresh in their minds. That was review. Assessment, there were twice during the video I really talked about how I used results to plan for our lesson today and how those were going to impact what we did and where I needed us to improve. You got to see a look at the new data wall, which is a big improvement from what I did last year. I feel like this is a lot more clear when the kids look at it. They can just see the colors change as we add the new assessments, and it's really made a good difference in the discussions that we have about results. Direct instruction, we kind of had 2 phases of direct instruction during this lesson. We had the new vocabulary, which school items, pen, pencil, desk, seat, and we played a game with that. And the second direct instruction section was about Gustar and how to better use it with clarifiers. Not only did it help practice and deepen their understanding of vocabulary, but also is very engaging to play the gotcha game, where students will hear me say it, and if I call the item the correct name, they'll repeat after me, and if I say it the wrong name, then they're not supposed to say anything, and we have a fun game with that. We played to 10, and that kept them very engaged and also helped them both hear and see and say new vocabulary, and getting as many touches on new vocabulary or new concepts, like as much efficient practice as possible, like as many times as they can be exposed to something in a short amount of time, the better and more likely it is that they're going to remember it. Application. So we use the new vocabulary in a speaking exercise where I ask them where they or what class they use that vocabulary in. And also at the end of class, that second cycle of instruction today through Gustar, they were able to choose an answer and hold it up and then kind of have to defend those choices they'd made against some additional questions that I asked them about why they did that. Engagement was definitely the gotcha game, rules and procedures. A couple situations, the students had to be reminded to be seated. They don't ever get to leave this class when the bell rings unless they're in their seats. Just they know I don't like it when they line up at the door or they're rushing to get through an activity. So they always have to be seated. We had a cell phone incident. Somebody's cell phone made noise. I asked that they put it on my desk. They put it on my desk. They got it back later. No argument there, but that is a rule that I enforce. Really, rules and procedures, the most important thing that you'll notice as you watch the video, you probably won't even think about it as rules and procedures. But if the kids see me go like this, they know that I want the whole class to respond. And if I raise my hand, they know I'm looking for someone to raise their hand. So those kind of physical cues help the kids know how I want them to respond to activities that we're doing. Really one of the sweetest things, I didn't even realize it during class when we were doing it, but when I went back through to watch the video, it kind of just made me feel good. The kids wanted to know why I was videoing. Like, what am I going to do with it? Why would I do that? That seems silly. So I told them it's a lot like when you play football. On Saturdays, you watch game film to see what you did good and what you did bad. Teaching's kind of like that now. It's weird to watch yourself, but watching yourself kind of helps you see what you did well and what you did poorly. Communicating high expectations during this lesson. Before we did our second rotation through direct instruction, I took a break again to tell them why we were going to be doing Gustar again. We'd taken a quick check the Friday before, and I just wasn't happy with the results. I reminded them 50% is not good enough around here. About 50% of them had gotten it the 80% or higher, which is what I require on basic checks. Grammar, vocabulary, 80%. If you get 80%, it's basically like getting 100. You knew it well enough to be done with it. But if you didn't get an 80, we need to revisit. Well, only about half of them got an 80, so it was clear we weren't done with that. And I noted one time here that I was checking in with a student who I thought was disengaged, but I'm constantly kind of scanning the lifeguard to see who's on their phone or who's playing a game on their computer and kind of redirecting them towards what we are doing. I was real pleased with today's lesson. I felt good at the end of the day. Most of the errors the kids made in that end of day check-in were due to not understanding the picture prompt, which is when we're doing assessments, it's a little bit easier to control what message the prompts send than in activities where I'm asking them to think. So I don't think that's a problem that we will continue to have. I was pretty pleased. And that's lesson 3.